Now, yet talking about the space shuttle in verse 10, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 10. Now, as the as for the likeness of their face, the poor had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and the poor had the face of an ox on the left side. They poor had also had the face of an eagle. Okay, he's giving you the characteristics of what this vehicle was used for and who was on board of this vehicle. The poor main component. In verse 10, the poor had the likeness of the poor, and as for the likeness of their faces, the poor had the face of a man, meaning the man who was a pilot was the first one to take flight in here, in this. And the face of a lion. A lion, we know a lion can't fly, so we have to understand the characteristics of the lion. The characteristics of a lion, he breaks into pieces and he dominates other creatures of the wild. This is the characteristics of the lion. So, if the lion was on board, the lion is a man who, and his weapons are mass destruction, which give enhanced man to go up into outer space and use lasers to guide bombs wherever they want to point them from up space and guide them and hit targets to break in pieces the adversaries those or their enemies, go behind enemy line, and break into pieces the same as the lion. This is the reason the lion is in there. He's a vile person. The lion is a vile person, but because he went up there for a specific person to use weapons to break in pieces from up there above down here, guiding weapons. Now, and on this right side, the forward and the left side, it tells you it had an ox. It had an ox on that side. Now, you're familiar with horsepower. Horsepower is what we measure the strength of vehicles in certain things that we create. Power boats, speed boats, all that horsepower. We measure by horsepower. Well, ox power is the exact same thing as horsepower. The ox symbolizes its ability to pull heavy payloads, because ox is used for its heavy payload. That is the characteristic. So it's telling us that in the first beginning, once this Joe was sitting on the launching pad, it had to have the strength of an ox. Why? Because in order to get out into outer space, it had a heavy cargo. The vehicle cannot go into outer space without the external fuel tank. You know, if you leave Arkansas going to California, you have to stop and fill up with fuel many times on the trip, and coming back, you have to fill up with fuel coming back. That's why service station is there. Well, this vehicle, the distance in outer space was so far until they can have no service station hanging up in where that force of gravitation is. So, in order to get past that gravitation, and while the keep the fuel from running out, in order to carry the space station and stuff out into outer space, it had to have the thrust of an ox. The ox symbolized the ox power that it had to have. How to do this here? With these wings. Since this vehicle couldn't make it out of space because the fuel that needed to go into outer space, it couldn't carry it all in the wings just like a commercial aircraft and stop and fill up. It had to have its service station attached onto it, and it had to have engines for the rockets to carry the service station. So to keep him from running out of fuel, he ride piggyback on his fuel station, because these engines runs by liquid fuel out of the liquid fuel external fuel tank. It needed that. But the solid fuel booster rockets, which is one of the wings, it flies with this, and once it flies so far up, they're disengaged, and once it have enough fuel, the vehicle here carries carries a little bit further, then it dislodged from this. This is where the man, God is showing you that this man had to get into outer space. What we're talking about is, so by God said it had four wings, he telling us in Bible prophecy, it had to have four components to enable this vehicle to fly outer space. So he called them four wings. The left solid fuel booster rocket plus is a positive wing, one. The external and the right solid fuel booster rocket is the other wing. The external fuel tank is the other wing. I got all these positive wings, and these jet engines of the aircraft that burns off the liquid fuel, it is the fourth wing. These are the four wings that it need getting off the launching pad. These are the wings that you'll see and understand when it have the symbol of the ark. The ark symbolize that it's going against the force of gravity. It needed these wings to take it up so far, the force up, the strength of an ark to leave the launching pad and go up into outer space. This is what God told me. This is a space shuttle. Go for verse 11. Then thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upwards. It said straight up on the launching pad. Two wings of every one were joined one unto another. He's telling you about a second set of wings. He's telling you this vehicle was a two-stage vehicle, because over here a minute ago he said it's four wings, but he said two. Two wings, it says two wings joined one to another, and two covered their bodies, and they went every one straight out. He's telling you about a secondary two wings, which is the glider wings that takes this vehicle in there. Two of the wings cover their bodies. These are the second wing. But these wings are used to return it back. In other words, God is telling us the space shuttle was a two-stage vehicle. That four wings took it out, but two wings brought it back, which gives it a total of 6 wings. And they went, verse 12, one straight byward, and they went every one straight byward, with whether the spirit was to go. Wherever the man want to go, they went, and they turned not when they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth thunder and lightning. Once this vehicle splashed off at the launching pad, before it slumbers up through the igniting of the solid fuel booster rockets and the engines starting up, the fire, the giant explosion caused shock waves and thunder and lightning, and the smoke goes up beside this vehicle, and it is surrounded, runs up the side of this vehicle. He's giving you a general description how the first flight began of this space shuttle as it leaves the launching pad here in Ezekiel chapter 1. And the living creature ran, forward, verse 14, and returned at the appearance of the flash of lightning. Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, the wheels upon the earth by the living creature with his 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works was like unto the color of beryl, aluminum, and they 4 had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. A wheel in the middle of the wheel is common. God was speaking of a technology that man had came up with. He had created a tie in a rim with a synthetic rubber, which when the vehicle come back, it used as a shock absorber to keep it from breaking up when it landed. In other words, God was letting us know that this was a reusable runway aircraft having the ability to go into outer space. The reason God gave us the symbol of the eagle is a bow that's able to dominate and carry a heavy payload, and fly as high as many other bows. But the space shuttle, that reason the eagle was given there at the last. The B space shuttle have the ability to fly out into space and return back